Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're working on Zeus again. We've got some new components for Zeus. We're going to be putting them in here and discussing why we did what we did. And then when we're all done with that, we'll come back and we'll talk about Zeus a little bit more. Oh, wow, what a story I have to tell. So, you know me, I can't leave good enough alone. So this is Zeus. Well, what's left of Zeus. This is the original board I got for it. And if you remember the long drawn out story, this is a Supermicro X8 SIL motherboard. The SIL motherboard is a server grade motherboard, but it does not have the built-in IPMI. I thought when I bought this board that I was getting the one with the built-in IPMI, but I wasn't. And you can always tell that because right here there should be a network port. Let me pull the camera back a little bit more. So right here there should be another network port on the SILF, but there isn't on this one. That's how you know it's the SIL and not the SILF. The SILF is over here. I went ahead and ordered that off eBay. And I got to tell you something about this seller. They even sent me a little note. Hey, make sure you install the CPU correctly. Do not bend the pins, or returns won't be accepted. So a little note they included. And another one. Thank you for your purchase. This motherboard only supports ECC non-registered RAM. i5 and i7 CPUs are not supported. So there's their number there. So good seller, they brought that to my attention. I already knew this, but if you're a first-time buyer of one of these boards, these Supermicro boards are very picky about RAM, always have been. But we did manage to get the right RAM and CPU. Now the problem I had with the new board when I got it in, this board, if you remember, we originally started out with this CPU cooler right here. This thermal take. The problem was, once you put the cooler on and put it in the case, which is down here, it's a little 2U case. You can see it down there. Problem was, this cooler was so high, it couldn't get air in through the top to blow down on the CPU to cool it, and the problem was we were having overheating issues. So we instead went with, everybody says, oh, these are crap. Oh, the Intel coolers are the worst coolers ever made. They suck. Well, this one, has a copper core. It also, as you notice, has a lower profile than the thermal take. So, being as it's lower, it can get more air to come in through the top, down and directed over the CPU. And this thermal take only has a aluminum core, whereas the Intel actually has a copper core, so it's going to do better to draw the heat away. So, however, the problem I had with this board, it had one of these mounts. Well, a mount similar to this underneath the CPU. And that was, of course, to put an aftermarket cooler on, because the Intel CPU simply snaps into place. So it had one of these on the new board. However, it wasn't one that was, let's just put it this way, it wasn't one that was easy to remove. Let me go ahead and move this stuff out of the way, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the new board came with that little one of these little things. And as you can see, it's glued. It was glued onto the bottom of this. So for a moment there, I thought it was screwed onto the bottom of this motherboard. But as you can see, it wasn't. It was simply glued on. There's still a little residue of the glue left. But I didn't just want to pull it up and, pop it up with a metal tool. So I got the spouse's hairdryer and just got it nice and warm, and then I went around it with a spludger tool, one of these little chingamaderos right here, little spudger tool. I just went around it, like this. That's on there. Went around it like this, and eventually got the glue to unstick with a little bit of heat. And now we're back on the winning page. So now what I've done is I've ordered, instead of using the Intel cooler, which I could probably very easily do, and in hindsight it probably is the best way to handle this, was just go back on with the Intel cooler. But I have ordered an Noctua cooler. They're $39 low profile 1156 chip compatible cooler. I went ahead and paid the $39 for this motherboard just so I could get the IPMI, because this unit's going to be in my rack, and you can see now in order to do work on it I have to take it out and plug it into a keyboard monitor. So I have tested it. It is working. Well, it was working before I ripped the bracket off, and hopefully I didn't damage any components while I was working on it. It doesn't look like I bent any pins or anything. I was as gentle as I could be with that board getting that bracket off. And we're going to now mount the Noctua into this motherboard. Push all this over here for now. And so we have the NH-L9i for Intel. So the first thing we're going to need to do is put our processor back in here, but I think we have a little mounting rig that needs to go on there. Let's open this up. So, alright, and as you can see, we got a pretty little fan in there. We got some stuff to put on there. We got a little badge we can put on there. For Noctua, we've got the sound deadening, got the screws, we got the fan, and we got the thermal compound. So let's just do this. I'm going to go ahead and mount the CPU in there next, clean it off, and we'll come back. So let me leave that there. All right, so let's see if we can't do this. And yeah, I'm in my pajama pants. I'm actually going to take this static bag out of the way because it's annoying me. And we're going to go ahead and hopefully I didn't damage this board when I took the other chip out. And we're doing something a little different with the camera today. We're shooting on the camera that was donated to us a couple of years ago when I first started my YouTube channel. I always felt like I never gave that camera. I didn't have what was required to give that camera a fair chance. So now that I've learned a little bit more about the camera, I'm trying to use it. So let's see if we can't get this out of here. Okay, good. That comes out there. Let's see. Got some screws. And we got the mount. So, what is that heavy box? It's a really heavy box. Okay, we'll move that over to the side. So I think what happens is I have to screw this on from the bottom. So, let's get that out. But it's heavy. I'll give it that. Now I'm going to want my fan to plug in over here. So I think we'll do it this way. This looks like, yeah. This looks like it may not work. And why may it not work? Because I have got some capacitors here that are too tall. Try it this way. I don't think it's going to work, folks. Nope. It's going to... Well, I say it's not going to work, but I think it is making contact. Let's find out. See, the problem is you see these surface mount capacitors here? It's touching on them, but I think it's actually hitting on the heat sink before it hits on that. this just screws in or unscrews, one of the two, yeah. So let's put a little dab of compound on here. Just going to put a pea size on there. And let's see if, I want to mount it this way, I think. Yeah, let's see where it touches first. Yeah, it's touching on the heatsink. Okay, so I can do it like that. Actually, we might do it like this. Okay, they're all tightened, but not over tightened. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, I don't see it touching anything capacitor wise. I just see the heatsink sitting on top. So that's good. We're going to go ahead and plug it in over here. Right on this connector. And I'll just take this, loop it back here so it's out of the way. Next thing I want to do is get the board back in this unit and fire it up. Now, I've also had a problem with the IPMI on this. I don't know what the default username and password is. So I have a USB key to plug in, and that will allow me to reset the username and password. Alrighty then, let's get this bad boy mounted. Okay, so we're all plugged in. Let's, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the NIC card, the IPMI NIC card, which is up here. We've got VGA, then USB keyboard and mouse. And then make sure our power supply is off. Okay, I think you're ready to give it a run and see if it doesn't blow up. So let's turn the power on, check everything, turn the power on. Got a green light on the board. Okay, everything's turning on. Oh, that's nice and quiet. See if we can go into the BIOS. Yep. Good, I didn't destroy the board. Oh, we gotta wait for IPMI to, and you'll see it says IPMI card. I don't know if you can see that or not. There you go. And looks like we're ready to carry on from here, and we can go ahead and see if we can't clear the IPMI password. And then we'll come back and see how everything's working. Alright, so it appears that we were successful. We've got the IPMI password reset. Well, actually, we didn't reset admin. It wouldn't let me, but I was able to get in and create one called Adama. So I can go ahead and turn this off now and remove the USB key that I did. I just installed FreeDOS on there. So now the next thing to do is get our drives plugged back in. I'm going to go ahead and turn the power off before I do that, though. And so we skipped the first two, then the fourth one is for the spinning hard drive. And the first one is for our SSD boot drive. And then we'll need to get our power connector here, serial ATA power connector. We'll just set this in here for now. We will come back and secure this SSD. Go ahead and flip the power back on. And it should now. I have a network activity LED. Power it on and see if it boots into Windows. Well, it appears to be booting into Windows. The server's been down most of the day. I've been waiting on this damn fan to come in. I didn't want to reassemble it with the Intel cooler in there and just have to tear it all out later. So I really like the ease of which that that cooler mounts. So is it worth $40? I don't know. I don't know. And it should start right up into Blue Iris, so we'll bring up Task Manager. Let me bring this up on the screen for you so you can see what I'm doing here. There you can see our CPU ratings and our temperatures. And our temperatures right now are running at about 51C, between 47 and 51C. The maximum it's gone up to is 51C. So the true test of this now will be to slip the cover back on and see if it overheats. Everything is running, Blue Iris is running. Now let's see what the temperatures go up to and see if we get alarm bells ringing again. Hopefully we won't, but you never know. All right, so here we are over at Zeus now. It's all booted up, all up and running. I've got, as you can see, Blue Iris is running. And we also have our virtual machines running. So if we come over here to Hyper-V, you'll see that we have the PBX and the web host server both running. And you'll see our temperatures have gone up as high as 67C, but they seem to now have stabilized around 60 degrees centigrade. For those of you in the United States, let's go look at Fahrenheit. So we're running in the 130 to 140 range. Actually, if I remember correctly, we were getting pretty close to those temperatures with the stock Intel cooler. They might have been a bit higher. And this is about what this server is going to be running at. It's about 30% usage at all times because of Blue Iris and doing some web hosting. This is also my Active Directory domain controller, DNS, DHCP, all that good stuff. So you got to keep that in mind as well. And as you can see, Blue Iris is working just fine. I can go and... But yeah, all of my video cameras are working. It's handling the load just fine. It is nighttime. I want you to look here real quick. Let's see if my pan tilt zoom is working. Yes, it is. There's me. You can see me waving, filming the video, and I don't have my hat on, so my hair is standing up. And this is my new camera rig. Well, actually, it's not new. The tripod is new. I'll be doing a video on that. I love this tripod. It's got a fluid-filled head, so it gets really smooth pan and tilts. There is the Canon 3Ti Rebel that was donated to me a couple of years ago. And then we've actually purchased a monitor to go on that because these screens, frankly, folks, are too small for me to see. And this camera is not real good at autofocusing, so I have to manually focus it. And I need a really big screen so that my tired old eyes can see. I filmed part of the video with this camera, and then I've just got I've got an LED light in a little can, one of those portable cans on a tripod to light up the area. So. But yeah, it's handling the load just well. And if we go back to clips, you know, I can go through my clips. Here I was doing some work. playing around with the new camera setup. And yeah, it just seems to be going really well. See, I actually do work even though it's in pajama pants. But yeah, it's working great. No complaints. Well, there you go, YouTube. You know, you get into a project like this and you start to wonder, was it worth all the work that I put into it? And pardon me if any of this is out of focus. I still, it looks to be in focus on the monitor. I'm trying to get used to having a light shining in my face. We're trying a little different camera setup. We're going to do a whole video on that. But back to what we were talking about here. So what did we do? We ended up putting the 8X SIL-F motherboard in here so we would have IPMI. I had a problem with the IPMI not being reset to default, which is admin in all caps on these super micro motherboards. We already had the X3470 processor, we already had 16 gig of RAM, we had the drives, we had everything else, but I had just managed to order the wrong board back in the day. Now, initially I tried to reuse this stock Intel cooler, and you know, we had a whole video on Zeus about this cooler. This cooler ended up being better for this situation in this 2U case than did the Thermaltake cooler, which I'll show you here in a minute. The problem is this board had, as you saw, that back plane on it that prevented me from actually using that that back plane, and I had to take a heat gun to it, well, my spouse's hairdryer to it, loosen the adhesive, and then slowly pry it off with a spudger, and it came off, and that gave me the ability to use this again. However, what I didn't know was that the new cooler that I got, which is the Noctua, show you that real quick, the NH-L9i, uses, it can't have that bracket on the back of the motherboard because it uses the through holes to secure the Noctua fan, which I showed you earlier. So once I got that bracket off, I was able to mount that, but I wasn't able to do that earlier because I was waiting. I ordered that Noctua fan yesterday evening about 7 o'clock, and it finally got here it was probably after dinner, about 6:30 it got here, so that's why I slapped it all together. Now, this Thermaltake fan, you know, I don't want to say anything bad about Thermaltake, and it's not the fan's fault. It was for my application. I simply got the wrong fan. This is a perfectly good fan, I'm sure, in most situations. It's big, it's aluminum, but you know, it doesn't have that copper core like that Intel does, and it just doesn't dissipate as much heat as well as the Intel or the Thermaltake. I'm sorry, the Intel or the Noctua. So, but it's a nice fan, so I don't want to knock it. I think it was about $23 on Amazon for the fan with the bracket, and this fits 1150, 1155, and 1156 sockets, and supposedly will handle up to 95 watts TDP if you have enough room in your unit for good airflow. You won't have any problems, but unfortunately that wasn't the situation for me. So I've spent a lot of money on this machine. I think the case was what, $30. The motherboard was $40, plus the other motherboard, which we ordered by mistake, I paid $20 for, so there's $50. So that's $80. Then you got the fan, which is another $40. Then you got RAM, then you got CPU. So by the time I built this unit, including the used hard drives, I've got several hundreds of dollars into it. And it was built with the idea of saving me money of having to run those Dell servers. The Dells are there for lab work and that kind of thing, and for YouTube videos. But this is my daily driver. This thing is running, as you know, Windows Server 2019. It's running Blue Iris under Windows, not on a virtual machine. It's my Active Directory domain controller. That means it's running DNS, DHCP, Active Directory, all that good stuff. And it's running 2 virtual machines. And it's handling the load just fine. So, you know, you think you're going to save money by building a machine yourself. That's not necessarily true. You have to consider all the benefits you're getting with with a higher end Dell or those IBM units, you get all that stuff built in, the IPMI redundant power supplies. So, but I don't need those machines running 24 hours a day. So that's why we built this behemoth. So Zeus is now ready to go back into the rack and get off my workbench so I can work on some other things. So we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below if you liked it, and leave your comments down in the comments section. I love hearing from my subscribers. And that brings me to another point. If you're not already a subscriber, please do me a favor and just subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you get notified of new videos. Well, hopefully if YouTube's working that day, you do. Now, it's through your generous donations through PayPal, Patreon, and through YouTube that we've been able to buy the components to put these systems together. We're still going to be continuing on with our Synology series of videos, etc. So please make sure you come back and see us again. And we're glad to see you here. And don't forget, folks, that we'll see you on the other side.